And Mr. Walker, we'll start with you on this next question, our fourth question of the program today. And it goes like this. Nationally, the unemployment rate has dropped, yet fewer people are working full-time jobs, or at the level they were working before the recession of 2007-2008. What solution will you present to change this course in our national decline? And again, we'll begin with Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. We have the lowest labor workforce in our country since 1978. The second worst president was in charge. We've got to get after that. But what are solutions? Here's a couple. The United States has the highest corporate tax rate in the world. Used to be Japan, 42%. We're at 39%. We need to reduce that. You say, what's a model that works? Well, let me give you a few. Number one, North Dakota. North Dakota now has an unemployment rate of less than 3%. You've got McDonald's in certain cities paying over $20 an hour. We just had a young couple move out of our neighborhood. Drives 4 hours to work because of the job and the economy. Why did they do it? Well, here's how they did it. They bypassed some of the federal regulations. And all those regulations, let me say this, didn't come from Democrat presidents. All right, let's be clear about that. 2007, the EPA. Well, what they're doing now is drilling on private and state-owned lands. And it's put a boom in their economy. But it's not just North Dakota anymore. It's Wisconsin. $500 million surplus. Texas is closing in on $1 billion. Florida, with no income tax there. It's amazing what these states are doing. Part of the issue, the federal government is making us play by the same rules as a Detroit, as a Philadelphia, and Chicago. And one of the things that you want in a congressman is to get up there in the economy, jobs, and every other area, and do as much as he can to return the power back to the states away from the federal government. Thank you.
The unemployment rate in the United States has dropped. However, I believe that's a false figure. If you take into consideration people that dropped out of the workforce, we still have an unemployment rate of at least 17%. You have an unemployment rate in the minority community of close to 25%. This unemployment rate is indicative of the Obama administration policies and attacks on the free market system. We have to change the policy and procedures that are affecting the free market system. As an example, if you would repatriate the revenues and the profits that are parked overseas by people like Google, Microsoft, and GE, Obama's favorite, if you repatriate that and tell them you can bring it back tax-free as long as you reinvest that money in capital expenditures and or hiring people, you will instantly see a true decrease in the unemployment rate. There are other things you can do to decrease the unemployment rate, yet also not harm the rest of the economy, such as repeal Obamacare. That is a direct result of the unemployment rate. The minimum wage issue that's going around right now, while I'm sure a lot of people may say, well, it's only fair to pay them $10.10 an hour, unfortunately, that would also stagnate our economy even further. That would be an anchor around our ship of state as it's trying to sail off. The minimum wage issue could take hours to discuss, but in short, what that's doing is it's making a few people richer at the expense of others. That will definitely increase the unemployment rate. So what we have to do when I go to Washington is to first do an analysis of all the aspects of the Obama administration which is hindering free market. And we're going to look at that and either repeal them or put into place something which is going to counteract what they're doing.
I think there's a number of things we can do immediately, and I think we could look to North Carolina as a good example of one of these, and that had to do with pushing people off of the welfare rolls in this state. I believe it was at the end of July, there were about 60,000 people that came off the welfare rolls because the rules or the amount of time that you could be on there was reduced. Guess what? 3 months later, 37,000 of those people were employed. You think they would have been employed if they still had free welfare that they were drawing? I think not. This president has essentially gutted the welfare reform that was done during the Clinton administration on a bipartisan basis. He's essentially stripped out the need to work or seek work, and he's at the same time has extended unemployment benefits for as much as up to 2 years. That gives disincentive to people to seek work. Certainly Obamacare has exacerbated the problem by causing employers to want to reduce the hours that they have their employees work so that they don't have to provide the benefits. But what we need to do is reduce taxes and reduce regulations, allow the free market to flourish. And I've been a proponent of repatriating corporate profits, which are legally held overseas. There's estimated to be over $1 trillion of those profits that are currently primarily in Europe. Our tax rate, or toll, if you will, is 35% right now for those dollars coming back. Folks, they're not coming back at 35%. That's a too high a threshold to pay. We did this once during President Bush's term. He was not in favor of it, but he did agree to it for 1 year at 15%. I would propose that we charge nothing for a year. And I think all that money would come back and stimulate our economy much more than all the quantitative easing that's been done by the Fed.
Excuse me. Republicans and Democrats have got to stop talking about increasing taxes and increasing fees to the federal government. One of the simple solutions is, everybody sort of agrees with this, we need to reduce income tax rates for individuals. Whether that's a flatter tax or a fairer tax, we need to do something to give the American people who work hard tax relief. We need to eliminate the AMT. If we can eliminate the AMT, that will free up additional monies. We need to reduce the capital gains tax. We need to eliminate the death tax, and we need to reduce the corporate tax. We need to reduce the corporate tax particularly because those individuals who relocate companies overseas are taking American jobs and American monies to places like Singapore and Hong Kong, and we've got to stop that. I am the only individual in this race who has signed a pledge not to raise your taxes. Why would a Republican fail to sign that pledge, not to raise your taxes? I'm the only candidate in this race who has signed a pledge not to increase taxes based on climate change. You know, the junk science that leads people to believe in man-made global warming takes money, or will take money, out of our economy. And as that happens, it kills business and it kills jobs. On regulations, the important thing on regulation is for the people to regain control of their government. How can we do that? Simple. We can pass a measure that says any regulation that has a net impact on our economy of $100 million or more must have congressional approval. And you know, as the tentacles of government reach every day into our homes, our businesses, and to our pocketbooks, that money's being sapped out of the economy. And as money goes to the government and it grows and expands, the ability to pursue the American dream diminishes. So those are some simple measures that we can take to make sure that we get a hold of our economy. Thank you.
You know, when I grew up in Rutherford County and Statesville and Iredell County, the American dream was to own a house with a white picket fence. As I've learned as a city councilman and trying to recruit companies and jobs and understanding what the companies want in our region, when I go to Rockingham, which has the highest unemployment in the 6th District, and Surrey and Stokes and Person, the American dream is to have a job, to afford a place to live. That's the American dream. The problem is the labor force as we see it, it's smoke and mirrors. We're making it too attractive to be unemployed. We're making it too attractive to just, when we keep extending these benefits and the payments. We've got, what, 47% or 40 of Americans have some type of government help. It's too attractive. We've got to make it attractive to learn. We've got to, this is more of a state issue on the learning, we've got to support our community college. Our community colleges are significant in helping folks that we used to force everybody to try to get a 4-year college degree. Well, not everybody needs a 4-year college degree. Community colleges are excellent in helping train vocation and workforce. So we need to support that. Trade. What is the backbone of North Carolina's economy? Agriculture, number one. Textiles, furniture, right? Well, we're talking about trade, which could open it up and hurt the textile jobs. And we've seen it, what happened to the textile jobs, where I grew up as I graduated from NC State in textiles, and my parents from Rutherford County. We've got to be careful with the trade, and you can't just open up the trade with these new trade laws so that good, hardworking North Carolinians lose their jobs to overseas. So we need to focus on not allowing the trade agreements to take those jobs away from good North Carolinians in textiles, agriculture, and furniture.
Bill, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to challenge a little bit the premise of the question and just talk about the last two words, national decline. We have 5% of the global population, our country, but we still are 21% of global GDP. We're still the superpower economically. Now, it doesn't feel that way if you've lost a job or you have a relative that's lost the job, but that's the simple fact. Our economy is bigger than Western Europe, Canada, India, the UK combined. Our economy is double the size of China, even though they have the population 4 times ours. Our economy is 10 times bigger than Russia. So we are still a powerful country economically. But I think the point that Don made about repatriating taxes, Phil alluded to companies moving to Singapore and Hong Kong. One of the issues is the alarming trend that we're taxing ourselves out of existence. We're no longer a country that is attracting a lot of investment. I think it begins a lot with the tax rate. And as you know, I'm a proponent of a flat tax. If I were a politician, I might have signed a tax pledge, but I don't believe in that. I think everybody should have skin in the game. Currently in this country, close to half of our workforce actually have net zero tax. There's something wrong with that. No matter what you earn, you should contribute a little bit to the country in a form of a tax rate. I lived in Hong Kong where we had a tax rate of 16% for individuals and 18% for corporations. And I can recall a city next to Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and had a population of 500,000 people in 1980. Today it's 12 million. 12 million. I'm not suggesting Guilford County will grow from 500,000 to 12 million in 30 years, but we need to get our tax rates under control. Thank you.
And I agree with that statement. We do need to get our tax rates under control, and we may still be a most powerful nation, but it doesn't feel that way to some of these people that have been unemployed for a long time and can't find work. And I believe that the true unemployment rate is higher than what is shown nationally and across the state, because there's too many people out there that have the education and the qualification, and they're underemployed. They may be working at the hamburger stand or what have you, but they're employed. But I agree with a lot of these statements that I've heard about cutting taxes, cutting regulations, but there's one thing that I would add and do, and that is an across-the-board spending cut, probably in small increments, but across the board with the exception of the military. But that's what we need to get this spending under control. We can't continue at 17.3 trillion with a T, 12 zeros. That has tripled in the last 20 years. That $54,000 a person that each of us in this room owes to the federal government was high enough 20 years ago at $18,000 a person. So we're headed in the wrong direction. We need to correct it. Thank you.